Hey everyone, it's me, and I'm back again with another dolly video. But yeah, so before I even start this, I apologize in advance because this might be a rather long video. Um, because this video requires taking these motionettes apart and putting them back together, and all that fun stuff. So let's readjust my camera here. All right, so first one we're going to start with is, well, basically this, if you don't know by the title, this video is about the differences, like I was saying in my last video, about open and closed gearboxes on motionettes. Sorry for all the noise. I am outside. It is, I think, 9:30 or 10 in the morning. So I don't think I've ever made a video this early. Maybe I have. I don't know. But yeah, this video is about open and closed gearboxes on motionettes and how to take them apart to either give them some more grease, or if you have any extra parts gears, this would be a good video to teach you how to open them up and how to replace those gears carefully. But yeah, so we are gonna, oops, sorry, got a Facebook message. We're gonna start with the open gearbox because those are much simpler and they don't require any kind of being taken apart or disassembly or anything like that. Basically, all you have to do is just remove the clothes. So here is a 1989 Telco motionette that I'm working on. She does not have a head because she is currently getting rerouted. So yeah, we'll get started on this. And like I said, the first thing you have to do is remove all of her clothes. And you kind of have to be careful when you're removing these clothes because the arms are just very thin wire. So try not to bend them too much when removing the clothes. Try to keep their arms in the same position because the more that they bend, the more likely they are to snap off. And then that requires a whole nother field of work. So yeah, alright. So there, her outfit is off. This is what she looks like. It is much too bright. Sorry, hold on. Just close that. There we go. Alright. So, like I was saying, this is the 1989 Telco motionette. And she has the black Santa boots that are screwed in at the back. Black base, you know. Oh, before we do this, I'm gonna show you how she sounds with, like before I open her. And yes, I am using AA batteries because I don't have any C batteries and I don't really have the money to buy C batteries because batteries are expensive. But alright, so here's her. She is a little bit loud. I did do a gear change on her, the main gear that's connected to the motor. But yeah, so that's her. And really, if you know what you're doing and you've done this before, really all you need to do is just look inside this armhole and you can see like where all the gears, you can see all the gears and all that, and you can just easily access them. But today I'm going to go through it thoroughly so that you guys know what to do if you have to take them apart and you don't know what you're doing. Alright, so obviously what you're going to need is a Phillips head screwdriver. And there's 2 screws back here. And then there is 1 screw in the front holding this whole mechanism in. So what we're going to do is just take these screws out. Ah, lucky me, fell on the foam. Alright, there's two, so the back is now free. I'm gonna open up her arms so that I can get to this one. Alright, so there they all are. And usually when I have to take one of these apart, I usually just cut this little piece right here on her shoulder, so it's just super easy to just boom, and she's out. And there are these wires down here connected to the motor. Do your best to try not to pull on those as much as you can, because they are very fragile and they do break easily. So just be aware of that. Alright, so here is this is what an open gearbox looks like. You can see all the gears in there. Sorry, I'm off center. You can see all the gears in there. And basically what we're gonna do is we're going to put some grease on them, because she is a little noisy. And basically all I do for that is use some Q-tips and some hitch ball lube. It's kind of grease. So that's how I grease up my dolls. And it works very, very, very well. I did this on one of the Santas I got for Christmas. And he's quiet as ever. So basically, this is not a good one to use. Basically, you're gonna wanna find one that's like really tough and it doesn't move a lot or get caught on anything. You know, you just wanna make sure it's really tight around the stick. So then you just take your grease. Okay, that's... Alright. Take some grease, just like that. And what we're gonna do is, I'll try to show this as best I can. And basically what you're gonna do is just, basically paint the gears so that you can get all that grease on there. And while you're doing it, just kind of turn them a little bit so that you know it's getting, all over. Just like that. And you'll probably need to put more grease on here a few times, because these do require a lot of grease to stay quiet. So yeah, we're just painting these gears in here. Just a little bit at a time. Alright, so then there's that. And obviously with the open gearbox, you don't have to take any of this out or apart. So you can just, after you put the grease on, you can just test it out. Boom. She's nice and quiet again. Just like that. It's that simple. Well, for the open gearboxes anyway. So yeah, so this one is about done. I just had to put a little bit of grease on her because she was a little noisy. So yeah, we are now going to put her back together. And we're just gonna slide her back into her place. Making sure no wires or anything are caught up so they don't get stuck and pulled on. Alright, so then you line up your holes that are on the front and the back. You just line those up and put your screws back in. For an open gearbox, it is literally that simple and it takes 2 seconds. Same concept for if a doll's gear is frozen up and it won't move, the easiest thing to do, if it has an open gearbox like this, you can see the main gear down in there. Right there, yep. So literally all you have to do is take something sharp and pointy, like I have this thing. I'm not sure what it is, but it's sharp and pointy. So if I ever had a doll that had like frozen up gears, I would just take that and turn that main gear, and then it'll unstick it and I don't have to take her apart. Super nice, super simple. So now we're gonna do these back ones, and then we're gonna get started on the closed gearbox girl, which requires total disassembly, which is really, really annoying. There's one screw. There's two screws. Oops. A little crooked. Alright, and there's two, and she's back together. Now what we have to do is put her outfit back on. Oh, close her arms so there's not much bending. Just like that. Fix those wires. Someone's here, I don't know who it is. But okay, so when I put the outfits back on, I do it the same way I took them off. So usually when I take them off, I start with this hand and end with this hand. So putting them back on, obviously I'm gonna start with this hand and end with this hand. So yeah. But these are some of them can be complicated, but most of the time they are very simple, except for her sleeve, because the sleeve is so thick and her hand is so big. There we go. So there's one side, and now we're gonna do the other side. And again, try not to bend as much as possible. I know I might be bending it a little bit, but a little bit isn't really gonna hurt too much. All right, and then we put this back over, like so. And boom, bada. She is back together. And quiet as ever. She's still got a little noise to her, but you know, that's nothing serious. So yeah, that was her. Super quick, super simple, done. Now comes the complicated part, which would be this girl and her closed gearbox. I know it's gonna be kind of hard to see. Like I said in the last video, this one's been through hell and back. So she is missing her shoulders. Her shoulders were totally cut off. And some of this foam down here is coming loose and kind of starting to disintegrate. So it might need to be replaced. All right, so what we're gonna do, oh wait, yeah, her arm's gotta be out, like that. So same thing again, one screw here, two in the back. That's usually how it is for all Talco motionettes, so just be aware of that. So we're just gonna, first thing I'm gonna do, when it comes to closed gearboxes, it requires total disassembly. So obviously the first thing you're gonna wanna do is remove the head, and there are two screws on each side of her neck that holds in this post down here. Let's see if I can get it out. Here we go. Yeah. So it's being held to this post right here, and then this post in the center here has a little black washer to hold it down like that so that it doesn't come off. And then what you're gonna wanna do is remove that, and then you can remove this piece. This piece will come off nice. And then you can take off these two screws, or three screws, sorry. So yeah, let's get started on her. I'm gonna start with the back screws. I don't know why I always just start with the back screws. So that's just the way I've always done it. Woo, that was close. Yeah, these screws are very short. I always think they're longer than they actually are, but they are very short. So when they get to the end, they will fall out if you don't have a magnetic screwdriver, which I do not. So keep that in mind. Always use a magnetic screwdriver when working with motionette screws because they are very small and all that. So let me just make sure. Okay. I didn't know if the screwdriver was gonna fit into these two little screws up here. So, all right, we got the back ones off. Now we're gonna get the front off. And then she will just fall loose. Like that. All right, so here she is, she's out. And also another thing to keep in mind, the wires that go up to the motor that you see right there, sometimes they're gonna be shorter and sometimes they're gonna be longer. So depending on the length of those wires is how much room you're gonna have to move this around. Like hers only goes out to here. Obviously the other one had longer wires. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Some are gonna be longer, some are gonna be shorter. So you're just gonna have to work with what you're given. All right, so now that we did that, these two screws at the top here, one in the front and then one in the back, those are gonna have to come out. And when you're doing this, I always put my screws in, I don't put them all together. I put them like in a row so I know which ones go where. All right, don't want to lose that. I wasn't exactly sure if this screwdriver is gonna fit into here. All right, so now that we have that screw loose, this whole top piece right here is going to come off like that. And just keep in mind that one screw goes in the front and two go in the back. And moving forward from here, another thing to keep in mind is the arm placement. Which one is on top and which one is on bottom? On this one, her candle arm is on the bottom and her non-candle arm is on the top. So be sure to keep that in mind because I have switched them by accident before and I put this one on the bottom and this one on the top and it just makes them really jerky. I'm not sure why. I don't know. All right, so then what you're gonna wanna do is make sure this post right here is centered with these so that you can easily just pull them out like that. I wanna make sure they're like that so that you can easily just, boom, done. That arm is off. Then you go on to the next arm. Boom, arm is off. Remember to keep in mind, candle arm is on bottom. Well, depending on which way it goes, whichever way, I know sometimes they're different. All right, so next thing you wanna do is these three screws up here, you're gonna wanna remove those. Here it is. And just remember to keep all of these screws separated because not all of these screws are the same. Some are bigger, some are smaller, so just keep that in mind. All right, so now those three screws have been removed. So now what you can do is literally just pull this up, if it'll come up, just like that. And another thing to keep in mind is that sometimes, most of the time when I take one of these apart, there's a post that does like to come out and stick to the top. That post goes in there to hold one of the gears in place, as you can see. So if that happens, it's no big deal. These gears are arranged in a certain way. So what we're gonna do is it goes, see if I can show you. The main gear right here, and then there's a gear under this one that's connected to the main gear, and then it goes to this gear over here, and then to this gear right here. So it's kind of like a zigzag. So this gear on top, you're gonna take that off. There's your gear on top. And then it goes this gear where the post came out that was holding this gear in. And then it goes that gear and the main gear. So now that we have those two gears out, I mean, you don't have to take them out, but if you want to like put grease on every single gear, it's recommended. All right, so we're just gonna set that there. Oops. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the post that got stuck in here, gonna take that out and put it back into the spot that it's supposed to go, which is obviously, you can see right next to that gear. So we're just gonna put that right back in there. All right, so then your gearbox will look like that. Sorry if it's a little fuzzy. All right, so now what we're gonna wanna do is get our grease and our Q-tips. I'm trying to go as fast as I can with this. However, you can't rush perfection. So if you want a doll that sounds good and is nice and quiet, you can't rush. That is the only thing I've learned while working on dolls. All right, so here's our grease, just like that. This stuff spreads really well, so you really don't need a lot, but then again you do, just to make sure you can get to all the gears and make sure they're nice and greased up so they're not like loud and annoying. And what we're gonna do, just like before with the open gearbox, we're just gonna take this and we're gonna put it all over the gears, just so we know she's not gonna be loud. Make sure all those gears are nice and coated. And that's another thing to watch out for when you're using Q-tips, because the gears can snag them and they'll come out like that. And if you're not careful, this will get wrapped around the post and then she'll get stuck. So just keep that in mind. So basically what we're gonna need to do is flip it over and use the opposite side. There it is. All right, so here's your opposite side. Just gonna take that, put some grease on it. Sorry, you can't even see. And then just continue what we were doing. Just coating the gears with grease. Just like so. Oops. If you can't see, I'm sorry. It's hard enough for me to see while pointing it towards the camera. All right, so those two gears are good. So now we can put the other gears in. It doesn't really matter which gear goes which because they're kind of all the same size. So like I said, it's a zigzag. So after this gear, that empty spot right there, that's where this gear is going to go. There we go. And what I do after I put a gear in, I turn her on just to make sure everything's working good, which it is, which is very good. And then we're just gonna take this and continue slapping slapping grease onto the gears. And this might require a few Q-tips, depending on how frayed yours got while doing the gears. All right, So now we're just gonna do the gear that I just put in there. We're gonna do that one. Oops. All right. So then we can put the last gear in, which goes right next to that one. The one that's on top, you're gonna wanna put this one over so it kind of overlaps and goes over that last one, like that. And then once again, putting grease onto that gear. Where's my grease? I lost my grease. It's probably right in front of my face. It is. All right, so there's your grease. And we're just gonna coat this in grease. Doopy-doopy-doopy-doo. Just to make sure she's nice and quiet. And you know, like so. So now it looks like a big greasy mess, but that's okay because that's what you want so that she can stay quiet. And then the last gear is her neck post, which is right here. Actually, I'll take this out so you can see it. Don't fall. Here it is, right here. This is the part that goes on her neck that controls it. So yeah, we're just gonna put some grease on that. And we're gonna need another Q-tip. Stop it. It's probably not the best to be balancing this on my knee. Spider, get the hell out of here. All right, you know what? Just for the moment, I'm putting her up here so she doesn't frickin' fall and gears go flying. All right, so here's this. And just like I said with all the other gears, just kind of paint that on there. This is what I always do. And for most of my motionettes, it's worked rather nice. However, for some, like this one, I don't know if you noticed when I first opened her up, but I have greased her in the past. So she was never as quiet as she should be. Like when I first put grease on her, yeah, she's quiet. But after a while, after like running through all that grease, she starts to get noisy again. So I'm just putting extra grease on here and making sure to really, I wouldn't say overdo it, but like just make sure that she's gonna be quiet, you know? Alright, so there's our gear. And now we can put that back through the top piece like this. And that'll go just like that. All right, and then we're gonna take our motionette and try to put her back together. Now the thing with this top piece, you're gonna have to remember this for sure. These two metal posts that are holding the gears in, there is two specific spots on the top of this to keep those gears in place. And I believe it's right there. Should be. Alright. Or if you really wanted to, there's two little small pegs over here, and you could just line the holes up with that. But she, I believe, was one of the ones. Let's see. No, she is moving. She will be a little slow at first. She's gonna have to let that grease run through there and kind of distribute itself. But see, even after I grease her, she's still super loud. And I'm not sure why. She doesn't have any cracked gears or anything like that. But she's just really noisy. But yeah, so that's that. And now we can start putting her back together. And those 3 tiny little screws, you're gonna wanna find those. And then you're just gonna put those back in. Get off me, you ant. There's one. Make sure that they're tight, but they're not too tight. Because I've learned that when they're too tight, it can affect the movement. I always get so shaky when dealing with small screws because I have such a habit of losing them and them dropping and just being lost forever. Alright, so screw number 3. Alright, and after I tighten, I always make sure. Well, that does not sound good. That's what I mean about these closed gearboxes. You get them closed and then something... Hear that clicking? Hi! Thank you. I'm glad you like my videos. But you hear that clicking in there? That's not supposed to be there. And so just for that, we're gonna open her up again and we're gonna see what's making that clicking noise. But remember, when you take this top piece off, one of the posts that holds the gears, that's gonna wanna stick to the top piece. So just keep that in mind. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I apologize because it's probably gonna be a little long and it's already at 32 minutes. So, all right. Let's wiggle this off. Surprisingly, that piece didn't stick. But I'm also not seeing anything wrong here. Alright, so maybe it's just the top piece, I don't know. But everything is working the way it should. And there's no clicking. So, it might be this piece up here. Maybe it's hitting on something, I'm not really too sure. But, yeah, so we're just gonna put this back together and see what happens. All right, we got it together. That clicking is still there. So at this point, I'm not really sure, but maybe it'll just wear itself out. So I'm just gonna put her back together, let her run for a few and see what happens. Alright, so these 3 screws, you gotta put those back in. Just like so. And do you guys remember what I said about the arms when you go to put them back on? That depending on whichever one is on bottom, that's the one that's gonna have to go on first. Because if you notice, I'll show you real quick. If you notice, this side has a higher post than this side. That's because this arm was on the bottom and this arm was on the top. So her candle arm is gonna have to go on first. If I can pick up this screw with all the grease on my hands. All right. All right, there's those screws. Oh crap, when did that happen? Oh crap. All right, so like I said before, with these wires being very, very fragile, I just broke one. And of course, it's a wire that goes to her candle. This wire. So now we have to, what I'm gonna do is see which way, and turn her on and see which wire it is that connects to her arm. Oh, it's that one. All right. So I found where the wire goes, which is right there. But I have plenty of time to work on this, so I will save that for later, because I'm probably gonna have to take her apart again anyway to figure out what that clicking noise is. So as long as it's not the motor, I'm not really too worried, because these wires, like I said down here, are rather short, so it's hard for me to reach my hands in there and tie them back to the wires that go to the motor. I've had that happen before, where the wires for the motor just came off because they were so like old and fragile, and they were short enough to where I couldn't connect the wires back to the motor because they were too short. So what I did, I have a bunch of spare wires that I never use. So I literally just take those, attach them to the wires that are already connected that go to the motor, and yeah. Alright, so just like before, how it came off is how it's gonna go back on. Just like that. And then you're gonna take your front piece, which one screw in the middle, two in the back. That's how I always remember it. It's gonna go on just like that. Alright, and then you're gonna put your two screws in that go up here. Wait a minute. There it is. Was off center a little bit. This is the difficult part, because these screws, they don't have a pointed edge, so they don't like to go in on their own, and you kind of have to just push them in so that they'll stay long enough to where you can put the screwdriver on there and screw it back in. That's always the hardest part, is to get screws to stay when they don't have a pointed edge. And I am sweating balls, so I'm gonna go turn this fan on. I don't know if you guys can tell or see how much I am ungodly sweating. Ridiculous. Anyway, so now we're gonna put the screw in the front. That did not. Wow. Okay. So I'm guessing the plastic for this screw is stripped. It is, because it's not tight. Which is fine as long as it's being held in place. Alright. So now, let's just put this back into here. and put our screws back on. If I can, there it is. All right, screw number 1. Do. Okay, and then the last 2 screws. Doopy-doopy-doo. Alright. Screw number 2. And of course, that screw is not going to tighten either. That is typical with these motionettes. After you take them apart, sometimes the screws won't tighten all the way, which is honestly really, really, really annoying. Only one of those screws will tighten. Alright, so now here she is, back together. Oh wait, I gotta put... Don't forget that little piece that goes in here that holds this piece on. And then you have her head. And then the 2 screws that go into her neck. Ugh. That sounds terrible. I don't know what that is either. I really, really don't. You can see her arms kind of jerky. I don't know. I don't get it. She doesn't have a broken gear. That's what I mean about these closed gearboxes. The open ones are so easy because you don't have to fully disassemble them like you do with the closed gearboxes. And I'm not even sure what that clicking is. I mean, you guys saw me open it up and all that and whatnot. I'll just let her run, see what happens. Let the other one run too. The other one's real nice and quiet. The other one's got real nice movement. And then the Mrs. Claus is just kind of slow and really jerky. Make sure I don't drop my phone this time. So here they are. Yeah, I'm not super pleased with Mrs. Claus. That's what I mean about them. Every time you take them apart and put them back together, there's always something that goes wrong, and you have to take them all apart again and do it like a million times. That's why I don't like fussing with the closed gearboxes, just like Chatty Cathy with the closed talk boxes. They really suck. But, you know, it is what it is. They're working, it's all that matters. They're nice and quiet. Especially that little caroler girl. She's real nice and quiet. I can't even hear her. It's like she's one of those 2-foot tall plugins. You never hear a peep out of them. It's real nice. But anyways, so yeah, that's about it for that video. Just wanted to show the differences between open and closed gearboxes with motionettes. And yeah, so that's about it for that video. Comment, rate, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Adios.